Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be an absolute treat. In today's video, I'm featuring a battler who I believe to be the best Ultra League battler in the entire world, Shadow Lord. And they are absolutely dismantling Ultra League teams with, of all things, an Ultra League Yveltal. Fans of the channel may remember that Shadow Lord has submitted footage on a few different occasions. He's always at a very high elo, he's always running something pretty spicy, and he's almost always playing that Pokemon basically to absolute perfection. So, without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out Shadow Lord destroying Ultra League teams with Yveltal. We've got a perfect mirror lead in game number 1, Galarian Weezing versus Galarian Weezing. Now, considering the backline has two dark types, it is very important that Shadow Lord neutralize the Galarian Weezing on the lead to set up the Guzzlord and Yveltal for their best chance of success in the back. Interestingly, this Guzzlord is on Dragon Claw instead of Sludge Bomb, which means that it has absolutely no coverage for Weezing. The fact that the opponent's Weezing does win Charge Attack priority in the mirror does make things difficult, but getting a shield call right on an overheat is a pretty big plus. Shadow Lord now going to look to connect with an overheat of his own. Opponent is going to no shield, and they do get KO'd. In comes Gastrodon. There's going to be an immediate safe switch into the Guzzlord. With that Galarian Weezing successfully neutralized, suddenly that makes Guzzlord a pretty effective safe swap, as it's very unlikely that an opponent would be running an ABA Fairy team. Gastrodon stays in the matchup, fires off energy. They are actually on Earth Power, but this is a very, very good Guzzlord. So Shadow Lord able to shake off that damage without too much worry and return fire with a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to get the Gastrodon low. There's back-to-back Brutal Swings loaded, and this will threaten a knockout. Gastrodon forced to put up the shield. This Guzzlord is just simply not getting farmed down. The two 14-15 IVs paying off, as Gastrodon is actually revealed to be double nuke. Opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Galarian Moltres. Yveltal farms up, begs to move the switch into the Weezing. Oh my goodness. Tell me that's the CMP sack swap. Overheat. It lands. It is the CMP sack swap. And that is just going to immediately end the game. Fly knocks out the Weezing, but the damage is done. The Moltres has lost so much HP, and now Yveltal can start to buff up its defense with Oblivion Wing. Yveltal at this point can basically just make itself immortal by spamming out these Oblivion Wings. Moltres doesn't have any kind of meaningful fast move pressure. Yveltal farms up, waits the turn, ensures no catch is going to come through. And by getting rid of that Galarian Moltres, this game is over. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon makes a move, but this is a double boosted Yveltal. It's not going to matter. Water Pulse does nothing. Sucker Punch farms down, and that's a good game. We move to game number 2, and it's a pretty spicy lead from the opponent, Galarian Weezing into Shadow Politoed. Shadow Politoed can learn a wide variety of coverage moves. Obviously, Politoed's always going to be running Weather Ball. The question is, are they running Ice Beam or are they running Earthquake? They did farm up to an Earthquake. Shadow Earthquake would be devastating. Weezing puts up the shield to respect it, and unfortunately, it is just going to be the Weather Ball. So the information on the secondary charge move still hidden. Weezing gonna fire off another Sludge. This should be enough damage to pressure a shield out of the Politoed. Weezing, not buying it, just gonna be no shielding, trusting that it's not the EQ. It is just going to be the Weather Ball. Safe switch into Yveltal is gonna be answered with a Florges. Is this Florges running a fairy move? It appears no. They throw on 5, so this should just be the Chilling Water. Chilling Water lands. That does do quite a lot of damage to Yveltal. Yveltal is a pretty glassy Pokemon in the Ultra League, but thanks to Oblivion Wing, it will be able to buff up its defense. That means that the next Chilling Water is not going to take the knockout, but Yveltal's going to be at -2, which means that the next Oblivion will probably not knock out the Florges either. Oblivion is going to be launched by Yveltal. Florges should know they can survive it, and they do. They no shield. There's the pivot into Weezing, trying for the snipe, but unfortunately, Fairy Wind does not take the knockout. Back in comes Politoed, but the Weather Ball does not knock out either. 1 HP survives left and right. Sludge connects, down goes Politoed, and the final Pokemon is revealed to be Giratina Altered. This Giratina is on Shadow Claw, which unfortunately for them means they have basically no fast move pressure into the Guzzlord. Dragon Claw will do a lot of damage to the Guzzlord, however, Guzzlord still has the Protect Shield, and it's going to use it here, just trying to keep itself as healthy as humanly possible. Guzzlord gonna farm up quite a bit of energy, watching for a catch attempt. No catch comes through. The opponent still does have that Florges with 1 HP lurking in the back. Brutal Swing is gonna be shielded. Oh my goodness, the turn wait! The opponent tried to snipe. Shadow Lord says no. He gets the catch of the Chilling Water and Dragon Tails down the Florges. Oh my goodness, what a play! And now it's Dragon Claw time. Dragon Claw takes down Giratina. Shadow Lord is just so much fun to watch battle. Bit of a scary lead in the next match. Galarian Weezing into Shadow Typhlosion. Typhlosion is going to bank energy, save switch into Greedent, and that is a beautiful catch onto Yveltal. Yveltal Still going to take some pretty sizable damage from the body slam, but the good news is due to Yveltal being a flying type, obviously the mud shots are only going to be hitting for 1 damage. Body slam number 2 is going to connect with the Oblivion Wing boost. It looks like Yveltal should be able to survive a 3rd as well, which would be very, very helpful. Oblivion Wing, no shielded by the Greedent. Greedent gonna farm up. I believe they're now at the back-to-back body slam, so the opponent may be able to make a play for switch advantage here. But I think that's honestly not the worst. I think the best play is just to let the Yveltal go, and that's exactly what Shadow Lord's going to do. Typhlosion up energy is very, very scary, but if Weezing's able to get a full farm down, then the Typhlosion is probably not going to want to switch itself back in, because it's just so far behind. Opponent pivots, sending in Lapras as their final Pokemon. Weezing's not baiting, going straight for the Overheat. Overheat will land, in comes Guzzlord. Guzzlord will have to respect potential Ice Beams, but by the Lapras losing quite a lot of HP, that makes this matchup a lot more comfortable for the Guzzlord. Guzzlord lands the Brutal Swing, Lapras threatening a potential Ice Beam or a Skull Bash. Shield will come up, they bait with the Sparkling Aria, so whatever they have, they're not going to reveal it quite yet. The Lapras is low enough that Brutal Swing will actually secure a knockout, and they're forced to put up the shield, because they are very, very weak to Guzzlord. They have Typhlosion as their final Pokemon. Shield comes up, a second Sparkling Aria bait. This Lapras tries for the catch, but they do not get it. The patience of Shadow Lord, holding all that energy on the Guzzlord. Opponent's going to be now sending in Typhlosion. Guzzlord farming up, going for the Brutal Swing bait. The opponent does end up shielding this. The Dragon Claw is available. There are going to be no shielding, but now there's 2 more Brutal Swings loaded on the Guzzlord. Guzzlord is just absolutely loaded. Typhlosion can fire off the Blast Burn on alignment, but this just simply does not take the knockout. Guzzlord will be able to hang on. Oh my goodness! Anticipating the switch in there, firing off the Sludge on the Weezing, going for an Undercharge. The Undercharge, unfortunately, still will take the knockout. Luckily, the Guzzlord has so much energy that even without the Undercharge, the game will be a win. Guzzlord almost at 2 more Brutal Swings, going for the Bad Manners Dragon Claw. What a game from Shadow Lord, and that's going to be yet another win. We move to game number 4, and it's a very familiar lead matchup, Weezing versus Weezing. Now this appears to be a pretty high rank Weezing, so odds are it's probably going to be losing a lot of charge stack priority ties, and it's going to be losing it once again here. The Weezing are going to be trading sludge baits, but Shadow Lord definitely has to go down a shield at some point in this matchup if the opponent does bluff an Overheat, because this backline just can't really do anything to Weezing. So that's exactly what Shadow Lord is going to do. This almost feels like deja vu from game number 1. Overheat is going to be shielded. He's going to farm up to 100 energy and look to take a knockout with the Overheat of his own. Overheat lands, down goes the Weezing. Opponent sends in a Shadow Zapdos, and this is where things get quite a bit different. Ideally, you don't really want to stay in with a double debuff Pokemon, but unfortunately, Yveltal is such a bad matchup in his Zapdos that you're kind of forced to stay in and just fire off these -2 sludges. Zapdos ends up double shielding, and they are not going to like what comes next. They double shield, they have so much energy, but Guzzlord is going to be sent in, and Guzzlord is very comfortable surviving Drill Pecks. So in comes the Guzzlord, immediate no shield. Does Shadow Drill Peck even 2-shot the Guzzlord here? Oh my goodness, it does not. Guzzlord, an absolute monster. Zapdos tried to CMP tie to the Brutal Swing, but Guzzlord just going to take the free Brutal Swing. Zapdos farms up, tries for a catch. They do not get it, and Galarian Moltres is going to be answered with Yveltal. At this point, I think the only way this game ends in a loss is if Yveltal ever shields a move. As Shadow Lord knows it, perfect win con identification. He knows the only way he loses this game is if Yveltal ends up shielding a move from the Moltres, and then Zapdos farms down and wins charge stack priority over the Guzzlord. So, Shadow Lord can just fully sacrifice the Yveltal. Yveltal was able to get good damage onto the Moltres, and now just fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw should be able to take the knockout, and even though the Guzzlord is very, very low, Guzzlord should be able to survive the Thunder Shocks and make the Brutal Swing. This Guzzlord does not have a lot of HP remaining, but it gets the Brutal Swing, takes the knockout, and gets the win. Galarian Weezing into Shadow Malamar in the next match. Now this is a pretty rough lead for the Galarian Weezing. Now, it might seem a little bit weird, the fact that there's a Fairy type into the Dark type and it's a bad lead, but the moment you see the Psywave damage, you immediately understand this is not where you want to be. Oh, Galarian Weezing gonna be full sending the Overheat, trying to secure the knockout, but no! Malamar puts up the shield, in comes Yveltal, and Yveltal is gonna be answered with Enamorus. So this opponent bringing out the spice as well. Enamorus probably gonna be firing off Mystical Fire, and they will do just that. That is a bit unfortunate, because the Oblivion Wing would have done a ton of damage before, but now the Enamorus is gonna be able to tank that a lot better. So Yveltal is at -1 attack, but at +1 defense. Enamorus winning charge attack priority. Oh no, that is tough for Yveltal. Fly takes the knockout, and in comes Galarian Weezing. Weezing cannot get the farm down. This situation started to look a little bit dire. Malamar banked quite a bit of energy before switching out, and that's going to be a problem for the Guzzlord. It's Tentacruel in the back. The energy on the Weezing is useless. In comes Guzzlord, answered by the Malamar, and Guzzlord's going to have to no-shield. Malamar will never bait, because baiting is basically the only lose con in this scenario, but look at Malamar's energy. It's just absolutely overwhelming the Guzzlord. Guzzlord ends up shielding, but unfortunately the damage is already done. Guzzlord has lost 3/4 of its health bar, and now there's no good way to get damage onto the Tentacruel. Back in comes Tenta. Guzzlord is going to be spamming out Brutal Swings, but unfortunately this just really does not do a whole lot of damage. Guzzlord going to farm up past the Brutal Swing, waits the turn. Oh my goodness, is this another CMP sack swap? Overheat lands. It is the second CMP sack swap of the video. Unfortunately, I don't think it's still going to be enough. Tenta goes for the undercharge on the Scald, which is the correct play, and Tenta should basically be at the second move and be able to take the win. Guzzlord going for the Hail Mary win con of the Dragon Claw landing, but the opponent will use their final shield. Shadow Lord tried to get it as close as he possibly could, but the Tenta energy was just simply too much. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty solid lead, Galarian Weezing into Walrein. Walrein does have super effective Earthquake in this matchup, but considering the backline gets absolutely destroyed by Ice, this is definitely the preferred alignment. Weezing lands the Sludge. That really does nothing to Walrein. Oh my goodness. Weezing is going to respect the EQ. Walrein baits with the Icicle Spear, and I really feel like Walrein, I do like it as a Pokemon, but it feels very inconsistent. If an Icicle Spear bait ever gets called, or if an Earthquake gets shielded, Walrein can end up in a pretty negative spot overall. Weezing able to make it to a third Sludge, that gets the Walrein very low, and I think at this point, oh no, tell me this is not the Earthquake catch. Tell me it's not the Earthquake catch. It is the Earthquake catch. Oh no, disaster for the opponent. Earthquake caught onto Yveltal. Yveltal shields up the Icicle Spear, and now in comes Shadow for Alligator. Shadow for Alligator makes the Hydro Cannon. Yveltal has not yet boosted. Can it even survive? Hydro lands. Yveltal hangs on, but not by much, as it will make the Oblivion Wing. Oblivion Wing will do critical damage onto the Feraligatr. There's going to be a pivot into Guzzlord. Guzzlord getting the 2 Dragon Tail head start. In the back is Shadow Toucanon. Guzzlord's energy lead will be very helpful in dealing with Toucanon because Toucanon has a shield advantage. Brutal Swing is going to land. Opponent tries for the catch and they don't get it. The patience of Shadow Lord is just absolutely crazy. Toucanon goes for the Beak Blast. That connects, but look at that Guzzlord refusing to get KO'd as it leaves with a parting gift of a -1 Brutal Swing. There's the pivot into Weezing. Weezing gets to the Sludge. The patience of Shadow Lord. The gameplay is just so on point. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, he gets another win. A tough lead returns in the next match, however, Galarian Weezing into Shadow Malamar. The one loss this team had so far was to a Malamar lead. Opponent tries for a Sludge catch on a Hippowdon, but Shadow Lord is just too patient. He holds the energy, and he brings in Yveltal into Hippowdon. Unfortunately, Yveltal is going to take some pretty massive damage from Weather Ball, and Hippowdon's up enough energy that it's going to make 2 Weather Balls before the Oblivion Wing is available. Weather Ball lands. That will easily 2-shot. That might even 2-shot even after the Oblivion Wing defense boost. Oblivion Wing is going to be shielded up by the Hippowdon. It would be very, very helpful if Yveltal could hang on here, but honestly, I do have my doubts. Come on, Yveltal, hang on. Weather Ball lands. Yveltal survives, and Yveltal makes the Oblivion Wing as the opponent tries to snipe down with Togekiss. Togekiss, unfortunately for them, will take pretty significant damage from Oblivion Wing, and there's back-to-back Sludges loaded. So the Togekiss just gets immediately knocked out. Opponent still has a ton of energy loaded on the Malamar and a pretty healthy Hippowdon. They bring in Hippowdon, that's going to be answered with the Guzzlord. Guzzlord tried to get to the Brutal Swing, but Hippowdon will fire off energy 1 turn before that's available. Scorching Sands is going to land. There's the pivot back into the Shadow Malamar, but Malamar will immediately be chipped down with the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing no shielded. The Guzzlord is rapidly approaching a range where Superpower could threaten a KO. Guzzlord's going to be no shielding. Superpower lands. Guzzlord survives. My Guzzlord can't do that. My Guzzlord is not this good. My Guzzlord would have got KO'd. His Guzzlord is just better than my Guzzlord. And now he sends back in the Galarian Weezing. He's going to be going for the Sludge. This is heavily resisted. Hippowdon's going to no shield, but he should be able to farm down, and he does. What a win. I was so confident Guzzlord would get KO'd there, but I do not have as good of a Guzzlord as he does. He knows his Guzzlord. He knows he can survive. However, this final game is going to prove to be a little bit of a challenge. Galarian Weezing into Corviknight. Galarian Weezing can't really take any charge stack damage here because the opponent's forced to go for Air Cutter, but if they get the boost, then things could get a little bit complicated. However, this Weezing has Overheat lands, and suddenly things get a lot less complicated. Yveltal save switch is going to be answered with a Shadow Typhlosion. Typhlosion fires off the Thunder Punch immediately, but Yveltal is going to look to shield and buff itself up with the Oblivion Wing. It looks like Yveltal in the 2s may be able to fully farm down here. It's going to be a little bit close, but Yveltal should exit with energy, and yes, it is actually going to get that full farm down. Sucker Punch is just so incredibly oppressive. Yveltal puts up the final shield, 4 Sucker Punches take the knockout, and Yveltal does exit with a charge attack loaded for whatever the opponent decides to bring in. They're going to bring in the Corviknight. Corviknight going to go for the Air Cutter, but Air Cutter is going to miss the knockout here. This is a +1 Yveltal. Yveltal hangs on, banks the energy, sends out the Guzzlord. I love this play because the energy really wouldn't have been particularly useful into the low HP Corviknight, but it could be a lot more useful later on. In the back is Shadow Drapion, and this game is just over. Drapion is walled by Guzzlord. This Guzzlord is running Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw lands, big damage onto the Shadow Drapion. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, these were some incredible battles, so many thanks to Shadow Lord for the battle submission. Now, it goes without saying, should you use Yveltal in the Open Ultra League? I'm leaning towards no. These Shadow Lord showcases are less about the team that he uses being good and more about the player being just simply that good. The CMP sack swaps, the patience to almost never let a catch happen, and near perfect win con identification. I really like showcasing players who are at the absolute peak of their game because it really shows the power of the possible. As you work to get better at this game, even just a little bit, whether it's learning a count that you didn't know before, or working on getting better at identifying win cons in the end game, you start winning games that you couldn't win before. And that to me is one of the most rewarding things about playing in the Go Battle League, is there could definitely be frustrating days, but the moment you win a game that you're like, wait, me a few weeks ago or a few months ago couldn't have won that game, it is an unbelievable feeling. And the skill expression, there's so much skill expression in this game, to the point where some of these games the Shadow Lord was winning looked basically impossible, and he just managed to find a way, because that's just how good of a player he is. So again, many thanks to Shadow Lord for sending in the footage, and only he could make an Ultra League Yveltal look like an absolute force to be reckoned with. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.